Hi everyone. We're going to begin this fall's series with this rather old raft style Shimpaku Juniper. I acquired this originally back somewhere in the mid-1990s. I'm going to guess 1995 or 1996. It was a very small juniper at that time and something smaller than a 1-gallon pot. And my original plan was to do an informal upright with a sacrifice branch. And then I noticed that the long low branch was getting really nicely developed, and at some point in the late 1990s I started thinking raft. So at that point we pinned this branch down into the ground, took the bark off the bottom, put some rooting hormone on it, and for the past 15 years it's been growing pretty much like this. At this point we've got a couple of problems with it. For one thing, it's getting a little bit yellow, which indicates that the soil's depleted, so it needs to be repotted. And instead of this mica training pot that we've been using, we're going to go into this nice ceramic pot over here that I purchased for it about a year ago. And it's only now that we're getting to the point where the weather's good enough for us to get around to repotting it. Now, in addition to that, we have a little problem with the apex. We had a lot of really hot weather here the past couple of summers, and as a result of that, this juniper got attacked by red spider mites. And although the rest of the juniper, as you can see, is very healthy, we lost the apex, which these things tend to do in nature, which is why you see some dead wood up at the top of the tree in nature. This one decided to make its own, so here we are. Anyway, let's get started on cleaning it up. Now, typically when you clean a Shimpaku, you start by taking off everything that hangs down underneath. And we can't shear these things, that's just not good for them. So we literally have to go in and take off every down-hanging shoot. And since this tree hasn't been cleaned or worked on in a while, that's going to take some time and some work to get it to where we want to go. Now, some of these are somewhat larger, and you want to be careful because every so often you'll get one of these that you want to keep and wire upward because it's strong enough to become a branch in its own right. So we really have to go in and use a good sharp pair of shears here and just literally take off every little shoot that's hanging down. Now, I'm not too worried about littering the soil surface here because we are going to repot this tree later on. Okay, this one, yeah, that has to go. And so does this one. And now we got to take a look at this branch. Now we've got these other competing trunks too, and we've got to figure out where we're going to have the gaps between the trunks and the branches on the higher and the larger trees. So there's quite a lot of work to be done here. Now you also need to clean out some of the upper growth here, and this is part of why we get red spider mites, is when these things get too thick and there's too much undergrowth, we really have to clean them out so that we can get light and air in here and kind of give it that nice lacy appearance that the bonsaiists crave. Now for this, I'm just going in and finger pruning, and when I get dead stuff like this that I can't get with my fingers, I'm going at it with the scissors. And then some of these were down hangers, and then we'll just kind of move this aside with our hands and start going at the down hanging undergrowth again. And that one, okay, that's kind of an undergrowth there. We've just about finished cleaning the main trunk here, and now we're going to start working on the number 2 trunk, and we're going to follow the same procedure. Now this has a tip on it that I need to wire out because this branch needs to get longer. So I want to be very careful to clean what's going to be on the underside of the branch after it's wired out and leave enough for future growth. So we'll just go nice and easy here and take this off and then finger prune where we don't need the scissors. And okay, that little branchlet there is superfluous, so that goes, and that. And then we'll kind of work in here, take out anything that's going to be too heavy a growth. Okay, now this is a lower branch, and when these lose light, they get weak. So you want to be a little easier on them than on the upper branches. Okay, so here we need to use the scissors because it's too thick to pluck off with the fingers. Okay, so that's going to be the low branch on this trunk. And when I wire it later, it'll look about like that. Now we got to start working on the upper branches. And again, we clean out the undergrowth. Try to get what's going straight down. But you got to be careful here too. Okay, that's a fairly thick one, so we'll scissors that. The cleanup on this tree is just about finished. And you can see we've removed a lot of foliage and restored the branch differentiation so that it's starting to look more like a large old tree that's grown in this way. The next thing we have to do is, aside from cleaning all the little spider webs out, is we need to get some wire on it and get some of these branches back into the positions where they're supposed to be, because we've got some that have just gone out of position. This needs to come down, this needs to come down and over, these others here need to come down, and then we need to get a new apex going here to replace the dead one, at least temporarily until this grows in. So let's go find some wire and start working on that. Oh, and this used to be up here, and that needs a little help too. We've completed pruning the tree at this point, and we've wired some branches into place. We're not going to do the deadwood work right now because we're coming into the rainy season, so we're going to let that wait for sometime next spring. But at this point, we are ready to repot the tree. But let's turn it around once and show you the work so far. You can see a lot of foliage has been removed. We've done a lot of pinching and pruning, but the tree's basic shape is pretty much as it was before. There haven't been any major branch removals. We've just readjusted some branches that have moved out of position back into position. And you can see now pretty clearly the basic 5-trunk design of this raft style bonsai. The next step is we have to get it out of this pot, and we have to clean the roots and get it ready for the new pot. So let's get to that right now. Unlike a single trunk bonsai, when you're extracting a raft from the pot, you have to be careful because no single trunk is going to handle the stress of just prying it out. So we're rocking it a little, and it's a little bit loose, but I think what we're going to have to do is take loose the drainage screens at the bottom because the roots are into them. And so we'll do that right here. And this is part of why I don't put extra loops in the drainage screen wires. Yeah, see, that's coming right out now, nice and easy, because the drainage screens are going to come out together with the tree. Yep, and we're out of the pot. Because Shimpakus are very slow growing, we typically go a few years between repottings, and this one has developed a rather solid root mass, so we're going to have to do some careful work here to get it out and break it down so we can prune it and fit it into the next pot. So we're going to have to work our way in with the cultivator and may even have to go in with a water jet later. The good news is the soil has not turned into mud or glop yet. You know, this is still a very healthy root mass. It's just depleted on the nutrients. Now you can see that even though this is a raft, and at one time all the roots were over here, this has been a raft for long enough that it's got roots going all the way along the low branch here that forms the raft. And the root mass is very evenly distributed through the pot, what used to be the pot. We've finished cutting the roots at this point. We've got the root ball down to the point where the tree will fit into the new pot that we've selected for it. Now, as you can see, it has a very dense root mass here, and we haven't really tried to bare root it. We don't want to traumatize the tree too much after taking off so much foliage. So we've just cut it down to the point where it'll fit in the pot, and then we'll carry it over here. And the new pot's already been prepared. And I'm going to try tilting it just a little. I want the pot a little higher than it was in the old pot. And I was thinking about tilting it just a little bit, because typically the way rafts form in nature is the wind is blowing downhill from the side where the original roots are and sort of forces the low branches down against the ground. So we're going to look at this, and that's maybe a little too much tilt, so I think I'm going to take it out and elevate the right side of it just a little. Got a ready supply of my soil here. The only thing new I'm doing with the soil is I found a supply of chicken manure at my local big box hardware store, and I wanted to try that, so we're mixing a little bit of that in addition to the usual organics. This time around the organics is from Miracle Grow, and the reason I chose Miracle Grow's garden soil is because it uses ammonium phosphate as an organic ingredient. Okay, we're taking a look at this, and this is actually pretty darn good here. It's high enough that you can see the original trunk and the low branch on top of the soil, which is exactly what you want with a raft. I think I'm going to tilt it forward just a little though. It'll give us that bonsai look, that forced perspective thing. So we're going to go one more scoop in the back here, maybe a scoop and a half. And now we'll try fitting it again. Okay, that is looking pretty nice. Maybe the soil just a little high in the back when we're done. If we do, then we gotta deal with that later. Also, we got a surface root here that's not gonna hurt anything. Make it look much nicer. So, we're in the pot here. Boy, that looks really nice, doesn't it? So let's keep going here and just backfill around the edges. And you can use a chopstick to tamp it down. I like to get my hands dirty, get the fingers in the soil. Kind of fun. You see we had to take off some other surface roots here. Let's just stop for a minute, grab the scissors, and see if we can. Yeah, that's not going to hurt anything either. So that's taken care for. And now we'll go in here and start backfilling around the sides again. Now this pot has an incurved rim, so you really got to be careful to work the soil all the way in. Get the tree in there nice and good. The beauty part of this is the incurved rim makes the pot look a little smaller than it really is, and it greatly emphasizes the tree. So that's part of the reason why I like this pot as much as I do, because it's going to make this a really powerful looking bonsai. This is kind of slow work because of the incurved rim, but you can't rush the work, especially when you're working on a tree this old. Our soil's in, and it's now time to water. Alright, let's see if we've got any fines washing out the bottom of the pot. Yep, there we go. Okay, that's how we know that the water's going all the way through down to the bottom. This was a rather lengthy and involved job, as we did a pruning and a wiring and a repotting all in one session. But as you can see, if you go back and look at the tree that we started with and look at it now, the results were definitely worth it. We're not quite show ready yet. We're very close. We need to take the Dremel tool, work on the deadwood, the gin snags here, and there's a couple more on the back of the main trunk here, here, and here, and we're going to be doing gin and shari work there. And then there's a little matter of the deadwood at the apex, and we hope that either this takes over or this one fills out and we get a nice rounded apex here. And we're still draining a little water out the bottom of the tree, but that's perfectly alright. It means we got the drainage working properly with the soil. So anyway, let's do our nice old 360 here and show you the whole tree all the way around, all 5 trunks, and this magnificent raft base here. And so here we go. Thank you for watching, folks.